all come into this for different reasons, and we have different backgrounds and whatnot. Uh, but what I found over the years, there's a certain uniqueness that you have to make it. It's a tough business. You come in for different reasons. One might be because you love houses, and but you're a salesperson. It's a sales business, but it is a business. So you're the CEO of your own company, and you have to really treat it that way. And so, how do you go from, especially if you're newly licensed? I call it the what's next. You go, you get your license, and most of the things that it's kind of like background information. It's nice to have, but most of it you'll never use, in the real world. And so they don't really teach you how to make it in this business, and what's the most important thing. What should you be doing with your time? So a lot of things I'm going to talk about has to do with time management and what you really need to focus on starting out. They say a rocket ship spends half its fuel just getting off the ground, right? And it's kind of like in this business too. You spend most of your energy, time and money and energy just getting going. And it's your ability to get going and keep going and get through that first year or so will determine if you make it. The stats aren't good in your favor. When I was at Wiley, I think they said, look to your left, look to your right, 2 of you won't be here in a year. Kind of scary, right? Why is that? I think there's a lot of reasons. I think, first of all, if you're coming from a job, who was it that said had the 7 to 9er? Was that you, right? Where you have to be 7 to 6? Yeah, 7 to 6. Well, there's someone telling you have to be there at 7, right? So you'll get a speeding ticket on the way there so you don't get written up. Okay, when you get licensed, there's no one telling you to do that anymore. So you have to treat it like a job, and you have to be your own boss, which means you have to have some self-discipline. And I see what I see happen is a lot of people start out that way. They're enthusiastic and they get going, and they might be working really busy, but it's busy work. It's not really what you should be doing necessarily. And and I see it fade after a while. Some people, after 3 months, they stop coming into the office. They stop showing up to trainings and things. And other agencies are picking at them. You come over here, you can save money and things like that. And you start to second guess yourself. And it's your ability to fight through all of that and be mentally tough and get through that first period and continue on. Once you get past that first year, you probably have maybe a 50% chance of making it at that point, right? But it's your ability to keep going. Another thing too is, I'll talk about this now. I call it the quitting rule because I think it applies here. Everybody goes through it, just so you know. You get at some point, your mind's telling you, or your friends, or it could be a spouse, or it could be your parents. Maybe this isn't for you. You haven't made any money yet. It's been 6 months. Might be a spouse saying, we need money in the household, and you haven't. This is maybe you need to go get a real job. And so it's your ability to fight back, and get through that. And it does happen to all of us. Happened to me. What's worse is probably some of the tough parts. You might have a good friend that goes through an open house and buys through somebody else. You might be a relative. Could be your brother or sister. Could be grandma, grandpa. They could have listed with somebody else. And that's a real challenge to get past that. And you start to second guess yourself, and that's why people think quit. So you have to just know that up front. That happens to all of us. And when you start to think that, I call it the quitting rule. It lasts a year or so before you can finally get past it. You guys are trainers, right? In training, your muscles don't really start to work out until you hit failure, right? I mean, the first 5 sets that you do are just really nothing. It's that 6th and 7th set that where your muscle fatigue and failure is where you're rebuilding your muscle, right? And so that's a good analogy since we have so many of these trainers in here.
That's a lot of sets.
I don't know what
You
it
don't
is.
lift it heavy enough, too.
I actually think, heavy, well, we can get into that another time. A lot of people I see doing like 100 reps, and it's like,
I know what you're saying.
are you trying to burn calories, or are you trying to actually build muscle? But it's the same thing, it's failure, right? You break it down and you fail your muscles to rebuild them stronger. It's kind of like in this business. You've got to have some failure and then to understand and to change course, or and to really win in this business. So I just want you to understand that failure is a part of this business. I saw a little thing that Will Smith put out, and he was talking about. Did you guys see that? It's kind of cool, right?
I didn't know he was into realty.
It wasn't real estate, but it was. He was talking about failure and how it is just part of business, is failing at first until you start to figure things out. So anyway, I want to touch base on that. So remember the quitting rule. When you have self-doubt and you're thinking about throwing in the towel, just remember this conversation, and just remember it happens to every single one of us. There's a lot of times people look at agents that are successful and they're doing so many. They're doing like 100 transactions, whatever it is, and you look at them and you think they're the special people. They've got a gift. They're a better communicator than me. They're this or they're that, or they had a big warm market, or they had, their dad was in the business, gave them all the money or all the leads, or whatever it may be. But what you don't see behind the scenes is an incredible work ethic where you roll up your sleeves and go to work and you figure it out. Not everybody has a warm market, but if you don't, you have to figure it out. It's just business. You just got to figure it out. So anyway, I'm going to play a little video here talking about time management. Then it talks about your hourly rate. And so what this means is you have to succeed in this business, you have to do the right things. And you have to give up some other things. And when I say give up, maybe you could put yourself on a diet, right? So some of the things that you may want to consider is giving up watching so much TV. Instead of watching 4 hours a night, maybe watch 1 hour a night. Maybe stop watching the news and being so enthralled with the news. You realize that the news is just basically coming up with stuff to monetize. They monetize the news with advertisements, right? To get advertisers. And then they come up, so they look at the world, and there might be 5% of stuff going bad, really bad in the world. And they focus on that 5%, where there's 95% of beautiful things going on in the world, right? People having babies, getting married, this and that, and but they focus on the terrorism and the fires and the this and then that, and you get yourself so enthralled in that stuff that and they're making money on you because you're watching the advertisements. Can't wait to hear, because it's just human nature so you have to just recognize this stuff and turn it off. Or don't turn it on so often, and so those are some of the things that you need to think about. So why don't you take a minute and just go through a couple things. Start with this page here on the back page, understanding your value. And you don't have to finish it now, but just kind of I want you to spend a little bit of time and think about the time value here. And then we're going to spend a few minutes on that, and then you can then take it home with you. And then I wanted to go into what you need to do in this business to succeed. As we move forward. Okay, so what should you be doing if you're brand new or if you're experienced? The thing you have to, when you get started, you have to basically focus on lead generation, what it comes down to. And you need to block time out for it. So in a day, there's basically, you have prime time and then you have kind of off hours, right? And so off hours, that's early morning, later evening. Maybe if you cut out an hour of TV, you can do off hour stuff. Off hours is not business hours, right? So what do you do in off hours? Well, as a brand new agent, I think you work on your skill set. You got to master the skill set in this business. In my opinion, you have to become a great listing agent to really make it. There used to be, when I was at Stan Wiley at the training room, I was in this chair back, 27 years ago, sitting there, and a lot of the people still actually are in the business, but they had a big banner on the wall that said, if you don't list, you don't last. And I think that is true, because as a buyer's agent, you're really a secret agent. Nobody knows you're in the business. You could be working with 100 buyers and nobody knows you're in real estate, right? Because you're just a secret agent. If you're a listing agent, you start getting signs in yards, and you have your name, you have your retail. You know, you ever go to past the subway and it has the open sign flashing, and you've got that neon retail sign flashing, saying you're in the business. Because what you're doing is you're really branding yourself, right? You could be with any company, frankly. It doesn't have to be Summa. It could be any company, but you're branding yourself. And people buy you because they trust you and they like you. But you have to brand yourself, so you have to brand your name. I think what's nice about being a part of a company is you have some recognition there. They recognize some signs and they kind of equate you in with others. But at the end of the day, it's about you. It's about your ability to brand yourself. So I think if I were starting all over again, knowing what I know now, and I was sitting in that chair, I would, in my off hours, I would be working on training. I would be a master listing specialist. I'd just get my lockbox for the first time. I'd go out and find some vacant houses. I'd go into RMLS. I'd find them near my house. Might take some along with me, and I'd pretend. And I'd go through the motions, pretend that I'm showing a house to somebody. The last thing you want to do is show up at a house and find out you can't figure out how to get the lockbox open, right? And you've got your client there and you're sweating bullets, So you want to do a couple dry runs. And I think a lot of it is it's confidence, right? And so if you're, a lot of times you're doing lead generation, you just hope they don't answer because you might have to go on that listing appointment, you might have to perform, and you're scared to death because you've never done it before, so you're hoping they don't answer the phone, right? You have to get past that, and the best way to do that is to gain knowledge and a skill set. So you can't wait to get there to show your goodies, right? Show how good what you've learned. And so you have to get to that point. So I think off hours, as a brand new agent, you have to master the skill set. You have to go on the dry runs, go show houses and pretend you're with somebody or take a friend along, open that lockbox up, get there 10 minutes early, flip all the lights on, open up the shades so the house shows well, those kind of things. And when you leave, put everything back the way it came, the way it was. And do that a few times. So when you get that buyer lead that comes in, you have the confidence that you're not going to blow it, right? In the next 3 weeks, we're going to cover a lot of things. And a lot of the things that we're covering are the things that it took me a good 5 years to figure it out on my own. So we'll have Patty go through contracts. So print out some contracts or go online and fill them out. Do a bunch of them. So you get the confidence that when you do pick up that buyer and you can go show them a house and then you can write a contract and you can put it into DocuSign or DigiSign and do some signatures to yourself and just go through the whole process. Because I think that a lot of people, you don't get the training. When you get your license, there's none of this stuff. And so you have to, so that's what we're here for. But you have to go through and do these dry runs over and over again. It's kind of like any skill set you develop, you have to do it over and over again. And so say, I'm going to work on my buyer deal. So work on your buyer presentation. Okay? So that might be sit down with your spouse and pretend you're in a buyer presentation. And you talk about this is how I work. You're going to go out, we're going to go out and look at some properties. We're going to find something that works for you. And then we're going to come back and write the offer up. Here's 10 business cards of mine. When you go out on the weekends, if you don't want these agents, they're kind of like vultures, right? When you go out to an open house and you come up to the door, just hand them my card and they'll leave you alone. You can look at the house without them bugging you. So what does that do for you? That gets them, because those agents will try to pick them up as a buyer. Mm-hmm. So you just hand them my card and they'll leave you alone. Well, that protects that relationship. If you don't have a buyer-broker agreement, right? You can go ahead and kind of keep that from happening, where your best friend buys from somebody else. Well, what happens in that situation is that agent says, "Hey, I've got an offer coming in at 2 o'clock. If you really want this house, you better get a hold of your agent, or it's going to be gone." So they try to call you, and of course you don't pick up. The one time you don't pick up, and then next thing you know, you find out they bought a house from someone else because they didn't, you're friends, but they really want this house. And so that's what happens in those situations. Happens a lot in new construction too. So you got to register your clients, on the new construction. So anyway, so little tricks, but you basically you know go through that dry run of that buyer presentation where you sit down and show them how you work. Go out, go out and show homes. Pretend. And pretend you're sitting down and writing that contract up. I really think more agents would make it in this business. That ratio of the failure rate in this business. If an agent can go from start to finish, from showing houses to writing offers to going through the negotiation of the repairs to meeting the appraiser to going to the title, signing the papers and getting that check. If you can do that process 3 or 4 times, you've got a better chance of making it. Same with listings. If you you basically go to listing presentation, you go through the process, you list the home, you market the home, you get an offer in, you go through that whole process, and you do that several times, you have a better chance of making it. I see a lot of people come in and they don't even get to that point. They don't make one sale and they're gone. And they're gone like in 6 months. They just kind of give up and they start their time thing, it starts going the other direction. So anyway, but your focus right now, remember that chart where you had the chart that was up there where you had your everything from 125, if your goal is 250. So I don't know if you guys caught that, but let's say your goal is 250,000, maybe it's 100,000 if you're new, whatever. So you picture depositing $250,000 in your bank account on January 1. And then it's your ability not to lose that money, right, throughout the year. So if you peter away your time all throughout the year, come December 31st, you look at that bank account, what's left? So if you kind of reverse engineer the setup, that's kind of what the thing is. So when you set your goal, you got the money already. So you come January 2nd, the money's still there. January 3rd, there might be $248,000.56, right? Because you petered away some time. Because $125 an hour every hour, right? That 60 minutes times 8, that's the magic 480. So every day you have 480 minutes. So everything you do has to be the right stuff in order to keep on that trajectory of 250,000. And so it's kind of eye-opening, isn't it? So what should you be doing with your time? As a brand new person, in your off hours, you do the training and the practice, and go get with a accountability friend. You guys, match up with somebody that's kind of in your same situation, maybe newer, and find somebody and kind of hold yourselves accountable. And in those off hours, work on your presentations, work on your listing presentation. Go to a vacant house and pretend that you're one's the seller and one's the agent, and go through that. That's in your off hours. What do you do on the on hours? Remember that half the fuel spent getting off the ground in this business? You spend all your time on one thing: lead generation. Actually, 2 things. The most important thing is being in front of people. The second most important thing is getting in front of people. That's it. Right? That's your whole job. Off hours, master your skill set. I could do this class in 30 minutes, really. Because that's really all. We're done. I mean, that's pretty much it. But there's more to it. But bottom line is, don't major in minors. I see people, they get in the business, they quit their job, they're all excited, they get going, and after a few months, that starts to wear off a little bit. And you can't go just on enthusiasm and willpower only. You have to have a plan and a system. So let's look at this sheet here.
Should be in all your binders as well. And then we have extra copies if you need them.
Okay. First thing, commit to being committed. So you're... I've got some extra.
No, I
You
got
good? You good? Okay. So you're the CEO of your own business. Isn't it great? You can get your license and you can get into business with hardly any money down. All right. I mean, you go to open up a sandwich shop or a hair salon or a fitness club. I mean, you got to buy equipment. You got to sign a lease. You got to make a big commitment. You got to have working capital. You got to hire people, and you know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, that's $250,000 just out the door before I even get started. before I get my first client. So this is a great business because it's easy to get into. It's a bad business because it's easy to get into, right? And so you have to treat it like a business. You're the CEO, and you have to act like one. It's a sales business, but it's a business. So the first thing you have to do is generate revenue. You just have to generate revenue, period. To stay in the business, you have to, and it's the cold hard fact. Well, how do you generate revenue? You have to create a schedule for yourself, and you have to stick to it. So you have to take your day, and whether you use Gmail or Outlook or whatever, some of the tricks I do is, I use Outlook because I'm old, whatever.
I must be old then.
So, I have a reoccurring, on my calendar, I have a recurring couple things. 6 a.m. I review my goals every morning. It pops up as a reminder. So 6 a.m. I review my goals. Period. 7 a.m.
For the day, for the quarter, for the year, or all?
All. I do, yeah. Thank you for that. And your goals are daily, weekly, quarterly, and annually. And you have to break it down into little pieces. Not to get off topic, but what I do is I have a daily goal and the weekly goal. If I don't meet my weekly goal, I have to work the weekend. I punish myself. Period. If I don't meet my goals, which means in the beginning my sales calls. If my goal is $250,000 a year, and it's going to require a certain amount of calls per day to get a certain amount of appointments per week, to get a certain amount of listings that turn into sales. If I don't meet my goals, I have to work the weekend. Okay? When you're starting out, you pretty much have to work the weekends anyway, but later on, you have to learn to be disciplined and punish yourself. And then I do everything like it at a 90-day, like a quarterly. I like to like put my head down and go, and then I look up in a quarter and see where I'm at. Because you can't just have an annual goal, because if you just ignore it, you might look at it daily, but if you ignore it all the way to the end, you're probably going to miss it. So you really have to break it up into bite-sized pieces, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? How do you accomplish your goals? You have to look at them. So I have that reoccurring little thing I've done over the years, and then I do my gym workout at 7. And then if I miss because life gets in the way, right? Someone calls up and you gotta, they have an early signing because they're on the East Coast and they're flying out, right? So I might have to miss my gym workout, but then I have to make it up. So I got the week to make it up, right? Because life happens, right? Things get in the way. But those are recurring every day on my calendar. And then I set my week up at a glance, and I kind of see what I have. But you have to set aside lead generation at least 2 hours a day. And if you're brand new, pretty much that's all you should be doing is lead generation all day long. And that's during that 8 hours. So let's back up a second. Why do some people make in this business and others fail? Isn't that weird? You have the same license, you have the same time in the day, and what is it? I think number one, at starting out, you have to be disciplined and you have to do lead generation. And number two is you have to create a plan for yourself. You have to create a schedule and a plan, and think it through, because you are in business for yourself, right? So commit to a schedule. So what I would do is I would go in my Outlook and I would say, okay, so I'm going to review my goals at 6 o'clock. I'm going to go work out at 7. I'm going to get in the office by 9 o'clock. I'm going to start lead generating. At the very least, you need to lead generate 2 hours a day, even if you're an experienced agent, period. That's the lifeblood of this business, is lead generation. So, remember that graph that showed the, it showed basically that, the $125 an hour work and everything before that and everything after that. So you're probably thinking, well, I am brand new, so I'm not, my $125, I'm not quite there yet, which is true, right? Because you have to, when you're starting out, you kind of have to do everything. So, but the sooner you can quit on things, the better, right? So let's say that your goal is 125 bucks an hour, and so all those things in the beginning and before that are worth less than that. But at first, you kind of have to do everything primarily lead generate and bring revenue in, because revenue is the key. If you've got a budget to start out with, or if you have revenue coming in, then you can start to hire out all that other stuff. And that's the key, and that's what separates, say, somebody that makes it big and somebody that doesn't. That's what I see, is you have to leverage your time and other people's time. So the sooner you can get revenue up to where you can afford to offload things that are less than that, the better. And that's just a fact of life. And so you're offloading to them in their expertise, their field, right? So should you be, for example, I was heading over here and I had a decision to make. I didn't have these things done yet. Frankly, I should have done them over the weekend, but I didn't. I forgot to do them. And so I thought, do I bolt over to the Bethany office, open up my computer, print these out, staple them together, which is way out of the way, right? It's way west. To go all the way back down here to the south, to barely make it in time or be late, and be frustrated. Or could I email them over to Valerie across the street, have her put them together and staple them, and then have them here, right? So it's every decision you make, you have to guard your time. Guard it really well. And so instead of driving all the way over to Bethany and doing that, I called Valerie. Now I was kind of stupid because I should have emailed them before I got here, and then I could have went over there first and picked them up, and then I could have got here. Instead, I got here, got my computer up, fired it up, emailed them, shot over there, and I got here 1 after 9. So right. So anyway, just think about your time. Think about, should I be doing this? You know, is this the most important thing? Okay, I already mentioned consider accountability partner. Quarterly, yearly goals.
And we'll talk more about that in Marcus's class, and we'll say business planning. So we'll all create quarterly and yearly goals all together and everything. So.
Okay. So, and we kind of covered this, but at the end of the week, make a plan for the following week, and really look at your time, even hour to hour. What do you do between 9 and 10, 10 and 11, 11 and 12? And if you treat it more like a job, like if you had your boss, or like if you're dental, right? You basically they tell you to take your lunch from 12 to 1. You come back at 1, and you have a scheduled patients, right? So if you treat it that way, if you treat this the same way, you'll be successful. That's really what separates people out. Okay, marketing budget. You should put 10% of all your monies aside and put it towards marketing. It takes money to make money. Remember the analogy of the sandwich shop or the gym? If you were to open up a CrossFit, of course CrossFit's easier, cheaper, right? Some ropes and a couple tires, and you're good to go. But anyway, you know what I mean. It's you got to put money into the business to make money. You have to market yourself. Okay, and there's a lot of ways to do it. You're going to get hit by a lot of people too when you get out there. By the way, when you get in the office, you're going to have title companies and lenders, and you're going to have people trying to sell you a bunch of stuff. Guard your time. Don't do it. Make the title company come to you. Make the the lender. They want to take you out to lunch. You know, I get it. That's their job, but that's your time. And so I would just say, actually, I won't have time for lunch, but you can come by the office, drop some stuff off. So really, what's your time worth, right? Do you really have time to take? It's not an hour of lunch. It's driving there. It's taking longer than an hour, and then driving back. The next thing you know, and then you come back and you're tired and you don't really do anything. So just protect your time there. Sock away 10% of your money and put it towards that. So allocate that budget to the 4 lead sources per year. Master those lead sources. So when you first start out, you really don't know what is going to work for you, right? You don't know if cold calling, working your sphere, working business to business, working new construction, you really don't know yet. It's kind of like when you have a baby, you put them in Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, you put them in music, you put them in sports, you put them in this, you put them in that, And he might be a sports kid, he might be a music kid, he might be a Eagle Scout. We don't know, right? You just don't know until, and they find their vein in life, right? And it's really up to, you can't force somebody to do sports if they're a music person, probably. Unless you're David Robinson, I guess. You can do both. But so anyway, so as a new agent, you have to do a lot of everything at first. And you got to suck it up and be tough. You got to be mentally tough. Pick up the phone. I know it weighs 500 pounds. I know you throw up and you hope they don't answer, and they do, and they yell at you. You feel bad the rest of the day. Get over it. It's business. Who cares? Doesn't matter. You got to toughen up. You got to be tough. And it's your ability to continue, and then you find your vein, right? So find your 4 lead sources. When you go through your goals, you know how you have your daily, your weekly, your quarterly, and your annual goals, okay? You have to measure those and see how they work for you. And so what I like to do at the end of the year, even at the end of the quarter, but I like to see where my business came from for the year. Because it kind of starts to help you develop what's working for you and what doesn't work for you. You may find that 80% of your business is coming from a certain area. Well, burn that candle. Keep it going. You know, maybe you are part of the chamber, or you have different clubs. And maybe that works for you. That's not my thing, but it could be someone's thing. Travis, you're great at the, you work your sphere, and it's really that one-on-one. I mean, other people work cold calls. You know, FISBO's expired. So find those 4 things. Create your database. Okay, in Basecamp, if you go to Sima Basecamp, are you guys all going to Basecamp? Mm-hmm. First thing you do, okay, get up in the morning, get a cup of coffee, open up Basecamp. Within Basecamp is where you operate, that's your mobile platform where you operate everything out of. In Basecamp, there's a document center. Under document center, there's different categories: business planning, lead generation, things like that. There's a spot under business planning, I think it is, there's a active income worksheet and a memory jogger. The memory jogger is basically helps you jog your memory on who should be on your database list, right? Who works on your car, who does your taxes, who cuts your hair, who mows your grass, who's this, who's that, and those people should be on your list. Starting out, you got to create your database. And I don't know, whether you've been in the area for a long time and you have a big warm market, or you're new to the area and you have to build it. But there's a direct correlation between how many people you know versus how successful you're going to be starting out. Not required, it just makes it easier. So, and who should go on the list? You bump into someone at the store, you recognize them, they recognize you, you don't remember their name, they don't remember your name, you say, hi, how's it going, and then you go back and think, who was that again? Oh, that's right, that was Johnny's friend from soccer. That was the mom from the soccer, right? So you do a little bit of investigation, you put them on your list. That's someone that go on your list. So next time you bump into them at the store, they're going to say, hey Tim, how's it going? How's real estate, right? Because you're sending them real estate stuff. So you have to go from being what you did before to a realtor. And you have to get that out there, and you can't be a secret agent. You've got to let everybody know in this business immediately that you're a realtor. Some things you can do, little tricks, there's little tricks of the trade. You can get your little name pad, badge that says, Suma Realtor, your name on it.
One of the first things I did when I got started was I went through all my different social media outlets and went through, and it's a good way to remind you of, who you've met throughout the years and friends within your sphere. So I went and exported all my contacts, all of my social media outlets, and then also went through like the memory jogger and figured out, where are all my relationships, especially, professionally, because if, let's say you're using a financial advisor, they better be using you as their realtor, and those certain relationships out there.
Yeah. Yeah, build your list right out of the gate. So take any list that you can compile. If your kids are in school and they have the school directory, throw all those people in there and get them into your CRM, right? So we have, and I think Brody's going to cover this in a later class, we have a relationship with LionDesk. You have a CRM is only $15 a month. That's the first $15 I'd spend, is build your list. So what the CRM, client retention management, you put in the clientele in there. It does a couple things. It kind of works your schedule, pops up, when you need to contact them again, puts notes in what your last conversation was, but it also sends drip emails to them on a regular basis, all automated. So you just put them, you set and forget. So at least they're getting something from you related to real estate. Because you have to go from being Tim, the Nike guy, to Tim, the real estate guy. And the longer, and the more people that look at you as a realtor, and, you know, is your better chance of succeeding.
Specifically with the Facebook contacts, that email doesn't work. Did you need to contact those Facebook?
It's to collect contact information off Facebook. It's like a loophole you have to go through, which is you have to get Yahoo Mail, and through Yahoo Mail you can actually export your Facebook contact information through Yahoo Mail, and then like export it from Yahoo. It's kind of tricky, but it's the only way you can do it out there. If you don't want to go one by one, each friend and collect their information. So, one thing that I found is really effective is through LinkedIn. They make it really easy for you to export your contacts through that, and it's gonna export it exactly the way that you want. You know, all your contacts organized, which is my first name, last name, you know, phone number, email, you know, that sort of thing. So I use LinkedIn quite a bit for making sure I'm reaching out to my sphere and everything. So.
If I can add something to that, when you're first going through your sphere and all that stuff, a lot of times what we want to do is we want to set up the drip email, all that stuff, which is very important to have. But if you just do nothing but just send off an email and you don't personally contact them, it's not as effective. It's 70% more effective. I think they've done the math on it, that if you have a personal phone call, something like that, and just start up that relationship. Don't pound them with a hammer right up front. Just say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a long time. Just wanted to let you know what's going on. Don't be like, hey, give me a referral right now. I'm in the business, you know. That's obnoxious. You're not going to do that with somebody if they're, you know, just be a good human about it, kind of thing. But that's the important thing, and then you get the email. So like you let them know, and then, you know, that's the hard thing about the, you know, people that they have known you for a while, especially like old college friends or something. They know you as the guy that drank beer and, you know, that kind of stuff. That's why they might not use you. And then over time, when they start seeing your success, and they start seeing you on Facebook, then suddenly they're like, okay, he's for real, you know, that kind of thing.
It makes sense, right? I mean, think about how you want to be treated, and sometimes your best friends don't use you, but it's not about you, it's about them. Because they don't want you to see how bad their life is. It's not, you know, Facebook, their life on Facebook, versus their real life down here. And they don't want, you know, they're posting all this stuff, I'm going to Paris and I'm doing all this stuff, and over here, they're in financial ruin and they're about ready to get divorced. And they don't want you to find out. It's a little too intimate, so they'd rather work with a stranger because they don't want you to know all this stuff. So that, just keep that in mind when somebody doesn't use you. For a long time you just made the list, buddy, right? And it drove myself crazy. Like, you know, someone would not, you know, a friend would use somebody else, and it would just tear my heart out, right? And you have to let that go. There's reasons why people do certain things. Either A, it's your fault because you didn't keep in touch, or B, there's something else going on. But you can't let that crush you. You gotta live your life and have fun. You can't sit there and carry that around with you. But this business, it's connection with people. People there's gonna be a certain amount of houses sold in Lake Oswego, for example, this year. In Clackamas County, Multnomah County, Washington County, there's gonna be a certain amount. Right now, people are talking, as we speak, there's people talking about or thinking about selling their house, or there will be selling their house this year. So it's your ability to spread your net and connect with as many people as possible. And Travis is right. You can't just send an email and expect that to be good enough. You create your database and you have your kind of your top people that are really good friends. You got to reach out and have a conversation and let them know you're getting into this. They might not use you because they might think, well, I want to see if he makes it first. If he's still in the business in a year, then I might, you know. So that's all the stuff that you have to wrestle with, and just keep that in mind. Just because you put them on your list doesn't mean that it's a guaranteed sale for you. So it's a mental game, right? A lot of people quit because mentally, they quit mentally. And they give up. So, okay, 80% of your time should be spent doing lead generation activities and getting in front of new people. Your job starting out is to learn and generate leads.
So for example, on the calendar that I handed out, I made this as an example of how you could follow this. I actually learned this specific strategy, when I was working for selling advertising for a media company in college. And every Friday at 5 o'clock, we would have to create a schedule for hour by hour for the next week. And when we say that 80% of your time should be spent doing lead generation, I'm talking about spreading that 80% of lead generation activities throughout your work week. So your 4 lead sources should be allocated throughout this schedule in different ways, and do it in a way that you can test things with a pattern throughout time. So like you'll see, like how I exemplified this, I did FSBOs and expireds, calling them as one lead source, social media strategy, door knocking, and emails. And then I spread that out, and that takes up 80% of the schedule. The other 20% is actual appointments, inspections, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's exactly it. If you can, and if you can stick to that schedule, pretty close to it, you'll be the ones that make it. In a year, you'll look up and go, wow.
Is there a component of SIMU that talks about social media strategy at all? Like,
Do you cover that later?
We talk about it, through various times throughout it, but that I can set up a meeting with you and talk to you more about the social media. That's kind of done on more of a one-on-one basis. So,
I'd like that.
yeah, we can definitely, anytime. So.
Yeah, he's really good at it. His outreach is pretty incredible for being new, I think. Did 7 million his first year, and a lot of it was through that whole of the videos and that he's done. So
Did you say sold $1 million in his first year?
7 million.
You sold $7 million in your first year. I wish I got.
And then
Yeah.
the majority of it's through social media.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
so-
can't be done. A lot of people get discouraged and they, everybody's doing it. I've
I don't
supposed to be
think-
doing nothing
yeah.
happens, but
I don't think it's the means to the end, but I think it's definitely a strong component of getting your name and your kind of your image and everything out there. So
yeah, I mean it's just about getting casting as wide of a net as possible
Are
to as
you-
many people. You can do calls all day to your sphere, which is great, or you can make one post that people are seeing 24/7 when you're not actually working. People are seeing things pop up on their timeline.
But you teaching me social media strategy isn't worth $125 an hour. So or yours might be $500 an hour.
I'm happy to meet anytime. That's what
For the
I'm
one,
enjoying.
yeah, for that like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? How it is, it really is.
Yeah,
Man,
five
like that 5-minute conversation could be worth thousands of dollars, right? Social media is great. It's a great passive marketing. It's a branding piece. It's a great passive marketing piece, but it's not the only thing. To me, it's like Coca-Cola having ads, branding Coca-Cola. It's kind of hard to quantify the result of an ad, a TV ad, right? Because people don't walk into the store and say, "I saw your ad on TV. I want to buy a Coke, 6-pack of Coke or whatever," right? So it's a branding. It's kind of out there passively working behind the scenes, but it's a powerful passive thing because every time they see that, they think Tyler Horst Real Estate, Tyler Horst Real Estate, Tyler Horst Real Estate, and then when the timing's right for them to think about buying a house or selling a house or referring somebody, they're going to think Tyler Horst Real Estate, and that's really so. It's that passive thing. You have to do more than that. You have to do the active thing, which is you actually have to get out there and work your database, get to know, ask for referrals. FSBOs and expireds, the only thing that's nice about those is that they want to sell. FSBOs, they want to sell, but they think they can do it themselves, so they usually, they have the attitude, well, this is easy, I've sold cars before, house, car, whatever. Expired listings, they're people that chose a realtor, they just overpriced it. They just weren't realistic on price. So if you can get that come in, sometimes it's better to be the second person in saying, well, I can sell this house, it's just overpriced. Of course, the first agent's been telling them that for 6 months, and they finally can see and say, okay, let's just put it at the right price, and bam, they do 6 months of work, get nothing, you pop it in 30 days. So sometimes it's better to be the second person in. But anyway, so FSBOs and expires, active type marketing.
Yeah, and people say that a lot of people hate calling FSBOs expired. It's uncomfortable and everything. They say it doesn't work because they made 100 phone calls one day, nothing happened. But we have a group in our Bethany office right now that's doing it religiously every day, and they're killing it. We're having about 5 listing appointments a week from just doing that alone.
Some tricks that they're doing. They're not calling the FSBOs and expireds that happen just that day, like all the other agents out there. They're going back 18 months. For now, they're not being bugged anymore by the FSBO callers and expired callers. So on the expireds, I should say.
I mean, there's a million other things
Yeah.
you can do out
Yeah.
there. That's just one example.
Yeah. Another thing that they're kind of doing is cool is on the, the Fizz, they're going to like Craigslist or wherever they get their Fizzbos, and they have their cell phone numbers on there because they're Fizzbo. They're doing text videos. So everyone just makes a phone call, they do one call, and that's it, and they never do anything more. That's what 90% of the people that even attempt to do this kind of stuff, they make one call, they're one and done. So if you do a follow-up call, if you do several follow-up calls, then you're all of a sudden the masses, the 90% of the people go away, and you're dealing with the top 10% that still hang in there. But I thought that was a cool idea where they text a video, they do a little video and they text it to the people. Everybody opens a text message, right? You can delete an email, but text you kind of seem to. So I thought that was a cool idea. And they're doing a video because you have your different senses. You have your sense of sight, smell, hearing, right? And so you're getting two senses right there. You're getting sound, and they can hear your voice, and they can see your face. So it's better than just a call. Because if you think about it,
Much more credibility.
and you're a real person, right? If you think about it, if you make a phone call, think about their other end of the phone. Ring, ring. Hi, this is Tim. Hey, I heard this is so and so from real estate. I want to sell your house. Well, they can't picture your face. You're just another annoying caller at that point, right? So, but if you can put your face in front of them and do something unique, I think you have a better chance. That's why it's always better to get face to face. So, another trick we do is we'll call somebody and we'll just say, hey, this is Tim. I'm calling about your house that you have for sale. Right, it's Fizbo. And then you put their phone number in your phone in their contacts, right? So when they call you back, you know who it is, so you're not caught off guard. And then you go through your little pitch. But the cool part is they're calling you, so they can't hang up on themselves because they called you, right? So so just psychologically, when you're calling them, they can hang up on you, but when they're calling you back, it's harder for them to hang up because they actually initiated the call. So a few little tricks. But but that's all the kind of things you'll learn over time.
And we're doing a lead generation class. We're going to talk just about generating leads in that class too. So
Yeah. That kind of brings the last thing here on the first page. Figure out your niche. So, like I said, your little daughter or son, you don't know what they're going to be, right? So you kind of do everything. So in this business, you gotta give it a good effort on everything, and you'll slowly find your vein that works for you. I got into new construction, and it was worked really. It kind of carried me for a long time. What's your value proposition? How are you unique? Why would they use you over somebody else? Find your value proposition. For me, I wanted to become a resource for people. So I would do things like I set up a deal with Contractor Furnishing Mart and different appliance houses, and I got a realtor discount. So I would tell people, hey, don't go paying retail for things. Contact me when you're ready to do something, and I'll get you builder prices. And it's kind of keywords, builder prices, right? When you say builder price, sounds like you're going to get a good deal, right? So they're going to come back to you for things. You want them coming back to you. And those are some of the things I did. And of course, as a resource, I got to, over the years, I wasn't afraid to do things. And so I did, I've done a lot of commercial and new construction and land development. And so I understood how houses went together, which I think it's, that was important to me because when people, they wanted to come to me for a resource for certain things. So, I'm on page 2 right here. On your value proposition, have your message consistent throughout all your marketing. So when so on your agent website, you want to put that in your bio, right? And you want to, and when you write a bio, you don't necessarily talk about just you, but you talk about what you can do, right? And to kind of make them the hero. So you got to, when you write that up, you have to write it in a way that it's not just talking about you, but be consistent throughout. Trust the process and don't quit. A lot of people start out the right way. They do some advertising, they try it for a while, they get going on their, they block out time, and they start generating lead generation. And then after 6 months, they haven't made any money yet. It's kind of like when you guys are in your workout classes, right? People are going to go, okay, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to have a body mass index of 5, whatever. And after whatever it is, whatever their goal is, and after 4 months, they don't see it. They go, well, this doesn't work.
4 months.
6 months, a year, whatever.
Usually it's a month.
Yeah,
You know,
they quit.
in the fitness industry, if they don't see results in a month, then
Yeah.
they get pretty discouraged.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why the day after Valentine's Day, all those New Year's resolution, you know. they're
Is
done.
that it?
They're done.
In realtors, it's about 2 days.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't see results in 2 days, you're just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Consistency is the key. You know, if you're going to do a farm or whatever, keep it going. Send out that newsletter religiously, even if you don't see the results. Darren Hardy has this analogy where, you remember those old time pumps where you pump water? You know, you pump and you pump and you pump and nothing comes out, right? Well, think about that in relationship to like working out. You work out, you work out, you work out, and you don't lose any weight, or you don't, this, or, whatever. And then you finally get some water up and like 3 drops come out. You go, you gotta be kidding me. All this work and I get 3 drops of water? So they quit, and all that suction goes all the way back down to the bottom of the well, and you gotta start all over again by pumping, right? Had you pumped 3 or 4 more times, and once that water starts to come out, you just can barely put your hand on that lever, and that just flows, right? And you got to get to that point in this business.
I've been around a while, so I used to siphon gas. Has anybody
Me too.
else siphoned gas?
I've
before?
drank a lot of gas in my life.
Yeah, same thing. You gotta keep on it.
You got to have a clear hose, so you know where it's getting close to your mouth.
It's pretty nasty. Pretty nasty.
I used to siphon gas on my dad's truck and put it in my car. They go, man, this truck is bad gas mileage. Well, have you tuned it up lately?
We were at those worksheets of thought too.
Yeah, okay.
Tangent, sorry.
All right. Let's be efficient with our time. Look at
My job is to
I
keep
saved
him on
5
task.
seconds.
Because he'll go off these tangents.
Mine too.
Thank you.
Should we take a quick break? 5 minute?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, let's take a quick little break.
Tim, what did you do for Nike?
Actually, I remember Nike Town downtown. I was hired with a group of us to open that up.
Okay.
And I worked in the basketball section.
Okay.
It was really a cool deal. I remember we were built there, so we started before they were still building it.
Yeah.
Down there, and so it was fun because we were kind of from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Got involved, and Phil and Penny Knight would come down
Yeah.
and check on it and stuff like that.
My dad was with Nike for a long time,
Oh, really?
but left.